this lesson, we're going to take a look at how we can incorporate some faster licks into our blues rock soloing. Now, traditionally, blues players are not known for their shredding skills, and we're not necessarily going to be looking at shredding type licks. We're just going to be looking at a way that we can add some faster licks in to help improve the expression of our solos. If we always play everything at a slow, moderate pace, then it can get boring, it can become a little bit monotonous, and by injecting a little bit of speed every now and then, it can help it sound more expressive. And that's what blues playing's all about. It's about expression. And with the blues rock genre, there's loads of guys out there that are doing this kind of stuff and putting faster licks in. And it has a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion. One of the best to ever have done it is Gary Moore. He can do the slow feel stuff, but then when he busts out a run, it's like, it's got power. And that's what we're going to be looking at doing. Just a few simple ways. This is a huge subject. We're not going to get into, one lesson of how you can become, a shred demon and play everything really fast. You can't do that. I'm just going to give you a few little ways, a few little tips and things that you can take away and practice and hopefully use those ideas to come up with some of your own stuff. Just to inject a little bit of speed, a few bursts here and there. And I'm doing some little simple ones so that if you haven't really done anything like that before, or you struggle a little bit with the coordination between your left and right hands, hopefully these exercises, some of them you'll find simple and you could probably just incorporate them into your playing straight away. Others will maybe become a little bit of an exercise to help improve your coordination, help improve your picking, your hammer-ons and your pull-offs and that kind of stuff. Okay, so we're going to look at 3 different ways that we can incorporate some faster licks. The first one we're going to look at is repeating licks. Now, the kind of ones that we're going to look at to start off with, these come from rock and roll players, guys like Chuck Berry would do it. It's where you just take a simple idea and you repeat it. How many times you repeat it is up to you. But by just taking a simple 2 or 3 note idea and playing it over and over, it's quite easy to build up the speed and it can have a lot of expression, a lot of feel. So let's get straight into the first lick. I'll play it up to speed. Okay, so we're going to do this lick in the key of A minor. It's based around the A minor pentatonic scale. A couple extra notes in there which actually make it the Dorian blues. You can use this kind of thing over a Mixolydian blues situation as well, the dominant 7s. You'd put maybe just that last note, you'd have to make it major 3rd. Easy adjustment. Okay, so we start off with this double stop thing. So we bend up, 7th fret on the G string, and our first finger lays flat across the 5th on both the B and the E, and we play that twice. So I say it's like an old rock and roll lick, something out of Johnny Be Good or something like that. We then come to the 8th fret on the B string, and we bend up, and our first finger is going to do 2 notes on the 5th fret E string. Now, like I said before, it's up to you how many times you repeat that. If you want to just stick on one of those, then that would be absolutely fine. Learn the lick, take from it whatever you want and make it your own. Then I finish off with this alternate picked rundown. So this run's quite easy because we're doing the same frets on each string. And it's quite good to remember this little pattern. Like I said before, it's the Dorian blues. Those notes are all from Dorian with a flat 5, so some people call it the Dorian blues. I'm not sure if that's an official term or not, but I've heard it knocking around. So we go 8, 7, 5 on the E, B and the G. Now I'm doing this with alternate picking. That's down, up, down, up, down, up. It may take you a while if you're new to that to get used to it, but it's a much more efficient way of picking than trying to do it all with downstrokes or all with upstrokes. It's much easier to relax your hand. Okay, so the lick all the way through. Okay, we're going going to take another look at a relatively simple one. This is a triplet lick, 3 notes per beat, or once you get it up to speed, you could do that twice the speed of that and do 6 notes per beat. Again, you can repeat it as many times as you want. It's using a hammer-on this time, so it's a way of getting 2 notes out of 1 pick. I'll play it through up to speed. Okay, so we start off on the 5th fret on the B string, and we hammer on 5 to 8. Then with our first finger, we're just going to lay it flat, and we play the 5th fret on the E string. And that's our repeating lick. So we hammer from 5 to 8, and then we pick the 5th on the E string. Now I'm doing this with a down pick for the first note, so hammer on, then I'm using an upstroke for the 5th fret E string. Like I said, pretty simple idea, but it can just be used just to inject a quick burst of speed. And you can use that kind of shape throughout different positions of the pentatonic as well. It's the similar kind of idea. That's up in position 2, in position 3. Whatever, you can try moving it around using that same kind of idea. Like I say, it's just a quick, easy way just to inject a burst of speed. Okay, so another way that we can look to incorporate some speed licks is to use sequencing. Now, sequencing is where you take a scale and you apply a pattern to it throughout the scale. So what I mean by this is rather than just playing the scale from low to high or high to low, we apply a pattern to that to create an extended run, as it will be a longer run. Now, the amount of different patterns is pretty much endless. You can come up with any that you want, any sequence. But I'm just going to look at just a couple that I have used in the past and that are fairly simple to get to grips with. Now, the first one's a triplet pattern. And what we're doing is we're playing 3 notes of the scale, starting from each note of the scale. So the easiest way for me to explain this is if I applied a number to each note of the scale, just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, nothing to do with intervals, just on the minor pentatonic scale, first note, second note, third note, fourth note, fifth note. The pattern would be 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. So we go up 3 notes of the scale, starting from each note of the scale. So I'll play it through up to speed, and then we'll slow it down. Okay, so we start off, we go 5 on the E string to 8 on the E string, and then 5 on the A. That's our first 3. The next 3 would be 8 on the E, 5 on the A, 7 on the A. Now, we're playing this with triplets, so that's 3 notes per beat. Once you get it up to speed, you can try it, double that, 6 notes per beat. Now, what I just did there was what you're not supposed to do, which is to leave a gap between them. So you don't want to go... They have to all run into one another. What I'm doing there is playing 3 notes, 3 16th notes, and then resting on the 4th. But you want to go... So it all flows, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, etc. Okay, so the next one after that, we've gone starting from the first note, 1, 2, 3. Starting from the second note, 2, 3, 4. Starting from the third note now, will be 5th fret on the A, 7th on the A, 5th on the D. Next one would be 7th on the A, 5th on the D, and then 7 on the D. That's the first octave done. We then do the 5th on the D, 7th on the D, 5th on the G, 7th on the D, 5th on the G, 7th on the G, then 5 on the G, 7 on the G, 5 on the B, 7 on the G, 5 on the B, 8 on the B, 5 on the B, 8 on the B, 5 on the E. That's the end of the scale run. You can end it however you want. You can do a bend or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Also with these kind of runs, you haven't got to do it all the way through. You could just take a little section. You could just do it over 1 octave or start in here. Play around with it, it doesn't really matter whether you do the whole thing. Do the whole thing as like an exercise, but I mean in the solos, in your improvisation, you haven't got to do the whole 2 octaves. You can just take one little bit. Also try it coming back down. So I won't talk you all the way through it. It's written down in the tab document. You just follow the same pattern. So we start on the 8th on the E string for this one. So this time you come down 3, go back 1, down 3, back 1. Now I'm playing this all with alternate picking as well. So down, up, down, up, down, up, all the way through. This is actually a great exercise if you struggle with your coordination or you struggle with your picking. Just this on its own, regardless of whether you put it into any solos or anything, is a great exercise just for improving that. Like a warm-up exercise or whatever. Okay, the next sequence we're going to take a look at. This one is going to use hammer-ons and pull-offs when we come back down. So the sequence of this is we move up 3 strings of the scale, back 1, up 3, back 1, up 3. So I'll play it all the way through. Okay, so we start off on the 5th fret and we just go up 3 strings of the minor pentatonic scale. We pick once per string, probably best just do it with a downstroke, and then hammer on the 2nd note on each string. We then come back a string, so in this case we've just played on the D, so we come back to the A string, and then we go up 3 strings of the minor pentatonic scale from there. Back 1 again, up 3. Back 1. And then you can just resolve it to an A note. You haven't got to do the full 2 octaves in a solo. You could just take the top half, the bottom half, play in the middle, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But it's just a good way just to, again, inject a quick burst, quick fast lick. Okay, so you can also do this descending, same pattern, but this time you'll come down 3, up 1, down 3, up 1. So it would go like this. This one, again, can be played with 3. You'll probably find it easiest to try and think of it as 6s, really, because we're moving in a 6-note pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It may take a little bit of work if you were at 100 beats per minute up to get it up to speed. But the fact that we're using hammer-ons and only picking once per string probably gives you a better chance of getting that up to speed. Okay, the last thing we're going to look at using to create faster licks is using chromatic notes, using passing notes, in order to get more notes per string, and it will help you to be able to play faster. So when we learned the Mixolydian blues scale in some of the earlier lessons, you would have noticed that when the scale was written out, it pretty much was the chromatic scale. There's just like 3 notes missing, but you get lots of chromatic notes in there. So these kind of licks really lend themselves well to the dominant blues. 12-bar blues sequences using dominant chords, dominant 7 chords. So I'll play the first one. We're going to start off in position 2 of the minor pentatonic and then move down into position 1 Obviously, because the notes we're playing, lots of chromatic, it's not necessarily the minor pentatonic scale. I'm just telling you that so you understand the framework, because it makes it a lot easier to remember it. Because the notes that we're playing around the minor pentatonic framework, we're just filling in the gaps. So I'll play it all the way through. Okay, so we start off on the 7th fret, and we play 7, 8, 9 on the G string. We then move up to the B and play 8, 9, 10. Now I'm doing this with one pick per string, then the rest with hammer-on. So it's getting 3 notes out of one pick. Now from here, I'm going to drop my 3rd finger down and play the 10th on the B. And the next set of 3 is 10, 9, 8 on the E string. We then move to the B and do 10, 9, 8 there. I then do 9, 8, 7 on the G. Now we're going to do a position shift with our hand down to the 1st position. And what we actually do is we play that 7th fret again, and we just treat it as the start of the next 3, which would be 7, 6, 5 on the G string. The lick all the way through so far. We then play 7, 6, 5 on the D, 7, 6, 5 on the A, and again we do another position shift down into what would be position 5 of the minor pentatonic, and again we're repeating this note, the 5th fret on the A, and we play 5, 4, 3, and then we do the same thing on the E string, and then just resolve it to an A note. Now, because we're doing lots of chromatic notes here, when you play it slowly, it can sound a little bit horrible. I mean, it doesn't sound particularly great when you play the whole lick all the way through on its own. It sounds a little bit nicer with the chords, and if you put it in the right place on a solo. Again, with the other, like with the other stuff, you haven't got to do the whole thing. You could just take maybe just the first half. Whatever, something like that. You know, you can just take like little bursts of it just to inject some speed. So I'll play it all the way through slowly. And back up to speed. Okay, for this last lick, we're going to look at one of my favourite things to do, which is to take an arpeggio shape and to fill in some of the notes within that with chromatic notes. Now, this one's probably the most tricky out of all of the licks today. Do your best with it, work on it slowly and try to build up the speed gradually. But take away some of the ideas from it. So try to come up with your own licks using this idea. This one actually hasn't got to be a fast lick. You could use the ideas here of seeing the arpeggio shape and where you put the extra chromatic notes, and that would work as a slower paced lick too. So I'll play it all the way through. It's based around an A dominant 7 arpeggio, filling in the gaps. So this would be used over an A7 12-bar blues or A7 chord in the same situation as like the Mixolydian blues. So here it is. Okay, so we start off with a dominant 7 arpeggio. We're going to hammer on from 5 to 7 on the D. We then play 6 on the G, 5 on the B, and we hammer on to the 8th. That's our A7 arpeggio there. Now this lick is all played with 16th notes. That means you're playing 4 notes per beat. So that note there is the start of our next 4. Now, the pick that we do on this 5th fret B string is very important because that's going to be the only time we pick on that string. The rest is going to be done using legato, which is hammer-ons, pull-offs, and slides. So we actually get 8 notes out of that one pick. Well, that's the aim anyway. If you need to re-pick at some point during those 8 notes, then that's okay, but see if you can do it all with hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides. So from there, we've picked on the 5th on the B, we hammer onto the 8th. We then pull off 7, 6, 5 and slide down to 4. From there, we hammer on back to the 5th and pull off to the 4th. From there, we come to the 7th fret on the G and we pick, and we're going to pull off 6, 5, 4. So lick all the way through slowly. Once we've landed on the 4th on the G, we hammer onto the 6th and back off. Hammer to the 6th, pull back off to the 4th. We then come to the D string and we're going to play 7, 5, 4. Then we come to the 7th on the A and we play 7, 5, 4 on that string too. You'll recognise those notes just from the mixed Lydian scale. I then drop that finger down to the 3rd fret and then bring it back up to the 4th. And then finish off, land on an A note, which is the root, on the 7th fret D string. I'll play it all the way through slowly. Like I said, that one's a little bit tricky to get up to speed, but just take from it the principle. We're taking this dominant 7 arpeggio and filling in some of the notes and just build up the speed gradually. Come up with your own versions. You haven't got to follow exactly what I do. Use that as just a base example to work from and to come up with your own things.